Town office.
Right.
That's a tax.
Yeah.
And a town dock, say, oh,
Now,
this
so,
is right.
so in that same vein, fixing the roof on somebody's nonprofit.
Well, that's not a nonprofit, that's the grain, that's a for-profit.
Oh, okay. Either way, I mean, if we're gonna do that, let's amend it and put in, I need a new garage door.
That's, you struck a nerve there, because I started this a long time ago. For me, my experience was when I was at EDA, I was 30. They, on Thompson Gardens, they had this community block development money, and they fixed
I
us.
said we can't be in front.
They were the best owner. I can tell you, no complaints that we had from the neighbors. They were all just to introduce hatred, discontent. It's a bad idea.
Yeah, it's not good.
But I didn't see Tim still for
A couple $100.
They can probably do it one.
They wanted to put this on. Of course, I did research on that. It cost unbelievable. And that's actually, like Betsy Holt and others.
Did you bring snacks with you?
Just for you and I, or what?
And of course, Bill and Louise Town.
Hopefully not for me.
Knew that very well.
How sweet for my taste.
Kathy Perot.
Well, not
Kathy
for my
Perot is
taste,
also a big
blood.
part of this bill. In fact, I'm
Oh, Candy hippies.
That's it. Yeah, that's easy street. So anyway, so we did, so anyway, they came to town meeting. And
Heard you're doing some
they
ditching.
wanted us to,
Yeah,
to help with the elevator.
Yeah.
An
Ran
elevator.
a little excavator and
I didn't know next minute going along
Like
with
the whole
the
town was just, but it was because.
But I was
Hamilton
Oh.
needed,
hydraulic hose.
yeah, I tell you what, it was not comfortable to stand in front of all those people and say no. But you know what? It's, as much as, again, I love the building is fantastic. As a car, I just don't appreciate the workmanship. It's not responsible.
That's a
Well, let's just step foot in that. Why are we forcing them to help?
Well, that's like, I work for the public schools every year. My kids are all.
Purchase for the year was a zero-turn
People
lawnmower.
are paying before. It's a Ponzi scheme. It's a. This guy's here, and his son is here, he's gotta be here. Yeah.
Tim knows.
Yeah.
Tim,
He's just on break.
where's our noble leader here?
He's on
He
break.
is indisposed.
Indisposed.
Okay.
You're welcome, Dave. You're number one, I'll get you.
Yes, mentioned that earlier.
I don't need that.
You'll be down at 305.
Soon as that's over, we're out of here. Well, I'm out of here anyway. Nothing else on there, is there?
No, we're just recording it later, but once you say that's our choice, then you don't have to stick around for that.
Fishing this morning.
Yeah? Did you see my pictures on
It's
Facebook?
called, I call it accelerated catch and release. I had some strikes, but they released it. I don't really quite get it.
See what I want.
I went to Ottawa.
Either what I want.
Yeah.
15, 43 handgun and a shotgun about this long.
I saw that. Where'd you catch it? Is that
I caught him right in the mouth.
Entry armory over here. I was on my way.
Is that place up north you got it?
From my house to buy another.
That's where it is, right there.
I know they were
Yeah.
gonna draw right on.
Yeah, it was the, in 30 years of fishing, there,
Congratulations.
it was the very best. I mean, it was back. You catch 8s, 9s, and occasionally 10. And you catch a bunch of them, you know? And, but anyway, it's improved, of course, it's improved. Fortunately, in a, there's more people to fish there, so we're taking more fish out, which allows more feed for fewer fish, and they get bigger, allows them to get bigger.
Yeah, one of the guys, one.
And, yeah, so,
Never home again.
you know, 314s and then 16, and I think I threw back 13 or
Now,
something.
where were you, Live Nation?
Yep.
So, deep?
Mayfly, no, it was right on the surf, on Memorial Day.
We tried everything
Dry
today.
flies, insane. Yep.
We got it every time today. And we also were supposed to go on the St. John last week.
Oh, yeah?
And we got up there and Norm,
How far up?
well, we got up to St. Francis Norm, Italian, to see how far. And he told us that they just started spraying. Oh, good. Good one up there.
Oh, really?
And
We're trying to buy us off.
hey, hi. Hey.
Thought you got washed up. Again.
No, wait, the roads were clean, so we switched over. Very wet.
Yeah?
Yeah, but they didn't come out.
So I used to fish Bailey.
Why should
When I lived up there.
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order, first order of business, it will be minutes, resolution 2579, to accept the minutes of May 21st, 2025.
So moved.
Discussion, all in favor? The workshop, open bids for the slip line culverts for projects in the unorganized territory.
So that should be the one white envelope on your
The
desk.
one white envelope right here.
What is a slip line culvert as opposed to?
You know what a culvert is?
Yes, I do.
You know when you have to replace one,
Yes, I
you
do.
either dig up the entire road or you get a slightly smaller plastic liner and slide it through.
Look at that.
After you look it up.
Place with cement.
So, but you don't slide them into the old plastic ones that are already giving out, or do you?
What's that?
If one is crushed, how do you fix that?
You can't,
That's what-
you're catching on your run.
They're all metal that wear slip.
The old metal pipes, the old galvanized pipes,
Okay,
have a life expectancy of about 25 years.
thanks.
So we'll catch them before they collapse.
The bid price for listed culverts above is $370,000, 0 cents. So there's a lot of culverts listed, so
How many?
Who's this? Who's,
EJP.
this is,
EJ Prescott.
Everett J. Prescott, Inc. And,
where are they at?
they're out of, Prescott, Gardner, Maine.
Oh, so there's several of them, huh?
Oh, there's all sorts of, here.
There's 11 total.
11?
Yeah, 3 of them are 8-foot culverts. So that's a big chunk of the money right there.
Then you've got one,
Were these inspected?
I walked in one
Yeah.
and made the mistake of not wanting to get my feet wet, so I stepped on the green stuff on the side.
You got more than
You're going to Disney.
Exactly, I was lying in the water going, what was I thinking?
Mr. Chairman, is that all?
So that is the only bid.
that is the only bid.
Were these inspected before they bid on them?
Inspected how?
Well, are they able to use the slip?
Yes, yeah, Phil and EJ Prescott rep.
Okay.
I'm not sure who it was it Reggie?
Yeah,
Yeah, Reggie Cooley. They looked these all over and
Yeah.
they helped us write up the RFP.
Right.
There's only basically 2 companies in the state that does this kind of work, that do a lot of it. And the other folks didn't bid.
And that, resolution will come up under unorganized territory, that'll be 25105.
Yeah.
So that's our workshop.
Okay, do you need to see that?
Yeah, I'm gonna grab that. Yeah.
How much money do you got for that?
We have this, so we actually have 2 funding takers. Basically, Chapel Road, 8 of them are on,
you're serious.
Fan Road in Stratford.
Money out of it.
From one hill, Southport, 3 are in Lexington those are the footage. And 2 of them are qualified as a bridge by the state. So we're kind of knocking off 2 for the price of 1 for that.
Workshop number 2, unless you have any questions about the culverts, but we'll be revisiting that anyway. Workshop number 2 is a continued discussion on proposed conservation of land near the Appalachian Trail. I think you saw a draft of an email that Tim, we could allow Tim to send.
On your tables in front of you, you should have similar information printed out from emails that you should have received and may have reviewed earlier. There's a letter from Ben Toll with the Forks Area Trails Club. Ben was hoping to be here in person today, but he could not, so he sent a letter of support for this project. There's also some questions and answers since the last meeting. Lynette Batt has tried to answer some of the questions that have come up, so she provided that to you in written form. And then the separate, where I wrote the word draft on the top, this kind of gives you an idea of what the Public Land Trust is looking for. And this is the email or the letter of no objection. And so what Lynette has drafted is a letter that outlines the data and includes the Commissioner's opposition to the no hunting rule for the National Park Service. So, and of course there's an additional map that was provided which kind of outlines the area and the surrounding areas where hunting is allowed and hunting is not allowed. So hopefully that provides some clarification for the Commissioners.
Any questions or concerns or thoughts?
Well, I know we have some people here, Ms. Batt and Mark Leathers from the Moxie Pond Association has come down, and I think Warden Brasher is here too.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if they want to say anything or just to observe. But I don't know how you want to.
I want to hear from the commissioners first, and I'd like to hear from the people who are here to speak for that as well. I don't want to deny them a voice.
I would like to allow them to
Yeah.
speak first, if that.
Okay, either one, it's fine. Yeah. So, who is here regarding the Moxie Pond, and Mr. Leathers?
Mark Leathers, yeah.
And anyone else? Mark, you want to?
You can way back.
There's somebody waiting in the
I didn't see anybody in the
Against the
back.
wall.
Is there somebody in the, oh, I see, yeah,
The shy guy in that.
yeah. Well, go, please.
Mark Leathers, I sent you all an email, which I'll use for a prompt. And this location, we can see, I pulled up my phone, the view that we cherish at Lake Moxie is this commanding view of Moxie Bald Mountain. And the whole foreground is the way the contours are, that's the subject area. I'm fourth generation of Lake Moxie. I went to Scouting in high school. I'm from Somerset County, and my family has had a place on our location on Moxie since 1929. My entire life I've dreamt of having this area conserved and preserved for the way it is. Both of my parents' ashes are spread on top of Moxie Bald Mountain. So it's a very special place for my family, and not just for our view, but our memory of our parents and our heritage there. I've hunted there since I could walk in the woods with my father around Lake Moxie. I've hunted on the other side of it, in this area, long before there were roads. That road, the subject road, I'm chuckling because I watched the YouTube channel of the May 21st where people were wondering where this road goes. I thought, they don't even know where the road goes. I was like, no offense. and that little chuckle, and it was, because that road was built when I was a junior in high school in 1975, and it was swamped out as a winter road. And as remember, we hiked up the trail, hiked up the mountain, which we do regularly on the Operation Trail, and all of a sudden there's a road there. It's like, what? How did this happen? This is like wilderness. And over the years, it's become gravel, and then it became an ATV trail, and then it deteriorates with the ATV traffic till it was almost impassable, where I had to walk my mountain bike over the cobblestones. And recently, the last few years, once it went on contract, I'm a licensed forester, I'm a master Maine guide, so I'm familiar with the forest products industry. And the last few years, when they started to realize this was under contract, and I got wind of it from some conservation groups, it was clear that they were liquidating the timber, which is what landowners do before they sell to conservation groups. They liquidate the timber, and they rebuilt that road. So now, currently, or at least Lynn told me that right now it's in pretty good shape. I don't expect that to last long because there's no timber to harvest there for another 30, 40 years. So the point I want to make is, when I heard about the hunting opportunities, there are very few people, very few people hunt deer there. I talked to some local folks that claim, blanket, oh yeah, I hunt there all the time. It's like, well, right here, pull up, yes, right on this, well, maybe not right there. And it is at the end of the dead end of the road system, because it's the end of the township, and of course, the ownership. North of there is Wagner, and those roads end in East Moxie. So this is the dead end road system. There's very little hunting pressure there for two bear baits, which I think two commercial bear baits. And I'm not exactly sure if we found out who the outfitters are for that. But I think that my feeling, and I'm pretty adamant about this, when I hear stories about, oh, it's the liberals from out of state that want this and all these arguments, I'm not a liberal from out of state. I'm from here. And I wanted this all my life. And I love to hunt. And I don't go there deer hunting because that's not a good bang for my buck, no pun intended. It's not a good time for that's my time hunting, to go over there because there aren't that many deer there compared to other parts of the state. And the other piece that I mentioned, I hear the questions about federal ownership and public land. It is public. The national park is for the public. It's for the people. It's not shut off. It's not closed off. It's public land for the public. And a unique situation with the National Park Service administration of the Appalachian Trail in Maine is they've delegated that to the Maine Appalachian Trail Conference or Club? MATC, Maine Appalachian Trail Club. Whenever you call Parker's Ferry to the superintendent of the Park Service, they say, well, in Maine, that's Maine Appalachian Trail Club. So it's administered locally. So it's really a nice situation to have this unit of the National Park Service that's actually administered locally by the Maine Appalachian Trail Club. And I think that's important for the commission to know. And I think this is a really important project. I really beg of you to not oppose it, not asking for support or for no objection to this, and try to leave politics out of it and think about what's good for the people that are actually here on the lake, in the neighborhood, that need this land and use this land.
So, are you a member of a lake association there?
I'm the president of the Lake Township.
Is there a consensus among the members in support of this?
We had a meeting that just happened, I found out about this on Thursday or Friday, before Memorial. We have our semi-annual meeting, Saturday Memorial and Saturday Labor Day. So it's 9 o'clock Saturday morning, and I took the position as president under the condition that we wouldn't dive into any controversies. And we'll be able to stay out of controversies, including the CMP corridor, which is where all the abutters to. We stay out of that, and we just take care of the road. And with this one, I threw out to the membership. There were about 30 people present, and threw out the membership. I said, look, this came up. Anybody want to do anything? And they said, well, why wouldn't we want to protect that? And I said, well, somebody make a motion. Somebody did, and everybody supported this project. One person, our secretary, sitting next to me, said, well, he said, I said, well, I don't think anybody hunts it. He goes, well, I do. And I had the map, I had Gaz here with me. I said, Mike, you actually hunt right there? And he says, well, probably not right there. I said, well, that's so. Then he voted, he said, I'm gonna vote no. I said, great, that's, you know, I love democracy, you know. He took his one no vote out of the 30-something people, everybody else was supportive. Did that answer your question?
Yes, it did. I have another question, sort of about the latest. Is this on the slope of Moxie Bald Mountain, or is it on a
It's on a slope, and I just had, it's easy, I'm not gonna search too hard for it. There it is. This is the view from this is, everything you can see there is the subject area. It flattens out where it's not the subject area.
So it's sort of the flank of the mountain is what we're talking about.
It's the flank where the top is the ridge is the Appalachian Trail, okay? So it's everything that you can see on the relief. The stuff that's not on East Moxie, that's flat. So you can't really, we don't see that. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. This map isn't well contoured, so it's hard to...
Yeah, so it's hard to...
Looks like everything's
see when
flat.
you look at that, and you kind of, it's easy to tell because we can see where they've been harvesting. Right? You know, in this picture, you know, you zoom in, you say, oh, okay, that's, so it's, thanks, that's a good question.
Thanks.
Any other questions for me? I feel like I'm really probably more familiar with this area than anybody, I'd say except one other person, but I'm a little older than him, so.
Well, thank you. Is there any questions?
No, I'm good.
No, sir? All right, thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Next, did you want to speak?
I can speak. My name's Scott Rasher, resident of Madison. I also own property in East Moxie Township, which is just north of this project area. And just as a disclaimer, I am a game warden sergeant, however, I work in western Maine, Franklin County. But I am very familiar with this area, and I would say my concern is properties like this getting into a developer's hands. For any of you that have been over west of Farmington, town of Temple, 80% of the town was purchased by a developer, and there's no less than 150 home camp lots there now, which is essentially going to shut down nearly the whole town for hunting, recreation, because it's all going to be developed. So that is really my concern here, is if this project does not go through, who will end up with the 1,800 acres? And I can answer any questions that you may have.
Scott, I don't want to put you on the spot as a game warden, but are you familiar with the hunting, the amount of hunting that goes on in that area?
There's some, I wouldn't say there's a lot. Like that was mentioned, there are 2 commercial bear baits that I'm aware of. Weyerhaeuser and all these big forest landowners lease bear bait sites. Probably the average cost is $150 a site. There's only 2 in that area. They're generally placed just off the travel portion of the road. And the road does basically turn into a goat path, and you can't go from Bald Mountain Township to East Moxie. There would be, my guess, limited moose hunting area in there. There's not really any clear cuts where people generally like to moose hunt. There may be some deer hunting, but I would say limited, and there may be some hare hunting or bunny hunting. Again, probably limited. I can't say with 100% certainty on numbers, as I'm not there every day, but I know just the geography and the access in that area. Some, but not a lot in all the hunting activity.
So you support the acquisition? I'm not asking you as a professional.
Yeah, personally, my concern is a developer, and there are other conservation trust entities where the restrictions may be even more significant, which we've seen in other parts of the state.
Are those other, without getting into specifics, are those, it seems to me the danger of other conservation groups getting involved is they're a greater likelihood of shutting down the ATV and snowmobile trail than hunting, or can you say? Is there a bias one way or the other?
Some allow hunting, but may restrict certain types of hunting, like predator hunting. They may not allow coyote hunting. Some of these groups don't allow motorized access at all. For example, if I'm not mistaken, the Nature Conservancy lands up towards the border northwest of Jackman or west of Jackman. I don't believe there's any motorized access at all. So I think with this project, you know what you're getting. With others, you'd have to do some research. And perhaps Lynette can speak to some of those other, she works with a lot of those conservation groups, more so than I do.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I guess I had just a comment to take off of what you're saying. Bureau of Land Management, federal program, 99% of Bureau of Land Management lands are open to hunting. The National Park Service made up, 75 units make up 60% of the National Park Service allows hunting.
Yeah.
Maine State Wildlife Grant Program not only allows hunting, but promotes hunting and fishing. Lands for Maine Future also allows hunting and forest management and everything else. So there are many other potential situations that this land could end up in those hands in a much more positive light, not just the negative light of the Nature Conservancy or something like that.
True, they could.
Mark?
Kind of in my wheelhouse here with buyers of these kinds of properties, both conservation buyers and private buyers. And there are a lot of private buyers that I will say a lot, 3 or 4 that could close on this in 30-day cash closing. These other entities, they're nice, but they take years to gather the money to put these deals together. They need to take appraisals. This one's going to take an appraisal. We're in the private sector, and the private developers, and this can be developed. I stumbled onto the deed, the access across the Appalachian Trail is actually access for all purposes, not just a timber right-of-way, which sometimes is a limiting factor. If you can only have access to harvest timber, well, then there's no development potential. There is real development potential here, and there are real buyers, and if this gets developed into, if this is a private buyer, private meaning not a timber company, there's not going to be hunting or ATV trail, because it'll be, the typical people are selling 20-acre lots, some people with a nice, beautiful home with a beautiful view of Lake Moxie, right? And they don't want to have ATVs and hunters.
So, question. So my understanding is through multiple communications, through the trust fund, as well as Weyerhaeuser, this particular piece of property is under a purchase option, which means that, right, you're a realtor, explain to us what that means.
I haven't seen the option, but she said an option, which is similar to a purchase and sale agreement, is they have exclusive right to buy the property for the term of that agreement, which I understand is July 2026. So so nobody else can buy it.
Exactly.
Except
exactly.
these
So some buyer, some private buyer, unless they go directly through them, cannot purchase the land.
Till after July 2026.
Exactly. Okay.
I got that date from other records. I haven't seen.
Well, according to their paperwork, this goes till sometime in 2026. I don't know what the exact date was.
It's right in here, what she
gave us some.
So if I can, just address the alternative.
Mr. Chair, you run the meeting.
Did you want to speak, Ms. Matt?
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to address the alternatives question, because that's a very real consideration that we have spent the last 2 weeks looking at hunting information, talking with folks, looking at, what the options are and alternatives. We have the option through July, and we will figure out a way to, we will work as hard as we can to figure out a way to conserve the land. There's a real risk that we aren't able to do it. It goes on the market, and as Mark said, come July 2026, there's maybe a buyer that within 30 days, a private buyer that could close. We don't see any route where we have public funds. It took us years to fundraise these funds, and all the sources that you mentioned, Commissioner Sekis, take years to fundraise. So Land for Maine's Future, the absolute soonest that the money could get out the door is late 2026, early 2027 at the earliest. So that's past our deadline. There's no BLM land in Maine, so that's not an option. So the state, we've had early conversations with the state. There's, potential, they have to do a whole review process to see if they were even interested in holding the land, and then what those funding sources are. But there's like Pittman Robertson funds, and there are other funds, but they are all a 1 to 2+ year process, more than a year, and that's from the time of application. So like Land for Maine's Future, the application round is actually next spring, the next application round. So we apply in the spring, and then we don't even find out till the fall, or till late spring about the funding. So that's all to say that all these other routes, conservation funding is slow, and I think that's the point Mark was trying to make, is conservation funding, public funding for other public lands like state lands is slow. The funds that do move more quickly are private funds. A lot of times those private funds tend to be more, the Nature Conservancy and other conservation groups. And so we would look at all alternatives and the money that we can get quickly, which is more likely to be private funding, in order to close by July. But that could come with a different landowner, different restrictions based on the funding and whoever that conservation landowner is.
And over which we have no say.
And you have no say. I mean, that doesn't need to be a vote for
Not
private
exactly
funds.
true, but. So my understanding is, talking with Weyerhaeuser, that your organization and them have a very good long-term working relationship.
Yeah.
And they want to be good neighbors. They're going to continue to do business here in the state of Maine. They want to do the right thing here in the state of Maine. And through my conversation, I got the sense, I didn't ask it directly, but I got the sense that if there were possibilities, you talking with the state saying, we're going through this process, that because of your long-term working relationship, that it could continue.
So I'm going to be really honest. There's Weyerhaeuser local and there's Weyerhaeuser national. And Weyerhaeuser national is who we have to work through on our option agreement. It took us an entire year to get a first extension of that option agreement, and it took us 6 months to get another extension. We are now working on our second and final extension of that option agreement. It's already been extended twice because we have been working for years on these funds, because this was part of a bigger package project along the Appalachian Trail. So this is the final phase. This parcel had been slated for National Park Service as long ago as 2020, while another parcel was purchased for Park Service and another parcel was purchased by a local group to keep open for hunting. So we, this bigger project was already sort of developed and conceived with one big parcel open for hunting, these parcels going to Park Service, and that's been the fundraising route. Weyerhaeuser has stuck with us through that, but they've given us 2 extensions, and they have said no more extensions. We do have a good working relationship, and we have used that working capital to get to this point and to get these extensions, but there's, the national decision on that, the gentleman you talked to is in their government affairs. There's different folks that we have to work through on the real estate side, and they've let us know that there's not going to be another extension on this.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think even if this goes through and there's, for the meantime, no hunting in that area, that doesn't mean that Appalachian Trail parkland couldn't be transferred to another federal park contingency that does allow hunting,
That seems likely.
which seems more likely than not.
Seems more likely that somehow the federal government, particularly that maybe Mr. Bergen would want to ensure that people have a right to hunt, would find a waiver possibility on regulations. That seems to be the most likely avenue, because this is a popular idea, and I think he would support it. My guess is if he could get the right paperwork in front of him.
Well, and again, I mean, there's so much, it's a huge bureaucracy. But from what I've seen in the short amount of time is National Park Service likes to keep things basically the same across the country. So to pick out little old Maine and make an exception is not very likely.
Well, is that possible?
I'm sure it's possible.
But we're speculating, but on the other hand, he just instituted in the last couple of weeks this requirement of local participation, so obviously he's got his ear to the ground on local people participating and getting their views heard. And if the view from here is we want to hunt on that land, but we think it should be preserved, I think, again, pure speculation, hopefully might be a good outcome, I don't know.
It's an option we're checking, true.
And the proposed revised letter, email of non-objection would include the commission as opposed to the no hunting rule, and request that the Park Service review it and consider if there's any avenue that they can take, a legal avenue that would allow it on this parcel. So that, we can commit to doing that review with the Park Service.
Okay.
As I stated before, I'm in favor of going ahead with this. I imagine it's more of, do we want to submit this letter with the exception on Somerset County letterhead?
So prior to that, if I could, we just did, which half of it was probably me talking, but we just did, well, yeah, I wasn't gonna pick on you. We've spent a lot of, I wouldn't say a lot of time, this is a very, very important topic that is going to affect a lot of people for a long period of time, and it's not really something that you can just say, oh, never mind, we changed our mind, right? To me, this is very serious. So anyway, with your permission and trying to be respectful of everybody's time, I put together some things that I thought were important for people to know, and I typed them out so that I could read them as quickly as possible to save time, so I didn't go on and on and on about stuff. And with your permission, I would like to do that.
Please do that. Thank you.
All right, so a few weeks ago, 24 hours before our last commissioners' meeting, we were asked to make, to some, an easy decision on protecting another 1,845 acres as part two of nearly 45,000 acre project, adding to the 2,620 acres conserved a few years ago. According to the Land Trust, Moxie Pond is a missing piece in over 20,000 acres of contiguous, highly climate resilient land and features sweeping views, etc., etc. We found out that the property will be removed from the tax rolls and that hunting of any kind will be banned, and some felt that this was an acceptable sacrifice to inflict on others in exchange for a trail easement to the state for the existing ATV snowmobile trail. So for me, in my mind, why does the project exist? According to the information provided, partners on this project are the National Park Service, Maine Appalachian Trail Club, Appalachian Trail Conservancy, Maine Appalachian Trail Trust. Under the section of state and regional significance, it plainly states this is about Appalachian Trail protection. This project is about one thing and one thing only, protecting the view and soundscape of the Appalachian Trail. Now, to me, the biggest red flag, as well as everyone that I've talked to since that has more information, It's provided in the statement on page 2 of the handout that we got at that meeting. Once protected, the property will be owned by the National Park Service's Appalachian Scenic Trail Unit. The Maine Appalachian Trail Conservancy will ensure that the land is managed according to MPS best practices to ensure that this iconic landscape continues to thrive for generations to come. So for me, at that point in time, what does that mean? What does it mean? What are National Park Service best practices? Well, when you look up National Park Service management policies, you get over 200 pages of policies that cite hundreds of acts, executive orders, laws, rules, and regulations that apply to this piece of property. Of course, not all directly affect these 1,845 acres, but here are some that do. The hierarchy of authorities. The management of the National Park System and NPS programs is guided by the Constitution, public laws, treaties, proclamations, executive orders, regulations, and directives of the Secretary of the Interior and the Assistant Secretary of Fish and Wildlife Parks. National Park Service policy must be consistent with the higher authorities and with appropriate delegations of authority. Sorry, I'm trying to hurry. Laws and other guidelines affecting various facets of the NPS administration and management are cited for reference purposes throughout these management policies. Other laws, regulations, and policies related to the administration of federal programs, although not cited, may also apply. So though the local trail club is going to be operating this thing, they have to follow all those federal guidelines. So when you look at within the 200 pages, right, and I'm not going to read them all, that's for sure, I didn't even bring them all. The National Park Service will strive to understand, maintain, restore, and protect the inherent integrity of the natural resources, processes, systems, and values of the parks while providing meaningful and appropriate opportunities to enjoy them. Sounds fantastic. The service recognizes that natural processes and species are evolving, and the service will allow this evolution to continue, minimally influenced by human actions. Natural resources processes, systems, and values found in parks include physical resources such as water, air, soils, topographical features, geographical features, paleontological resources, and natural soundscapes, and clear skies both during the day and at night. Physical processes such as weather, erosion, cave formation, and wildland fire, highly valued associated characteristics such as scenic views. In this chapter, natural resources, processes, systems, and values are all included in the term natural resources. The term natural condition is used here to describe the condition of resources that would occur in the absence of human dominance over the landscape. The service manages the natural resources of parks to maintain them in an unimpaired condition for present and future generations in accordance to the MPS specific statutes, including the MPS Organic Act and the National Parks Omnibus Management Act of 1998, general environmental laws such as the Clean Air Act, Clean Water Act, the Endangered Species Act, the National Environmental Policies Act, and the Wilderness Act, executive orders, and applicable regulations. Activities that take place outside of park boundaries and that are not managed by the service can profoundly affect the service's ability to protect natural resources inside the parks. The service will act to protect natural resources from impacts caused by external activities. Not really a neighbor that I would like to live next to. There may be situations in which an area may be closed to visitor use to protect the natural resources, for example, during animal breeding season. So even the access that is provided can be shut off. And I'm going to skip a lot. Restoration of natural systems. The service will reestablish natural functions and process in parks unless otherwise directed by Congress. Landscapes described by natural phenomena such as landslides, earthquakes, floods, hurricanes, tornadoes, and fires will be allowed to recover naturally unless manipulated manipulation is necessary to protect other resources. The service will use the best available technology within available resources to restore the biological, physical components of these systems, accelerating both the recovery and the recovery of landscape and biological community structure and function efforts. May include, for example, removal of exotic species, removal of contaminants of non-historical structures, restoration of abandoned mineral lands, one that I'm concerned about, abandoned or unauthorized roads, areas overgrazed by domestic animals, or disrupted natural waterways or shoreline processes. So basically, in this, they want to return the land back to before human beings were walking on it. Biological resource management. General principles for managing biological resources. The National Park Service will maintain, as parts of the natural ecosystem of parks, all plants and animals native to park ecosystems. The term plants and animals refers to all 5 of the commonly recognized kingdoms of living things and includes such groups as flowering plants, ferns, mosses, lichens, algae, fungi, bacteria, mammals, birds, reptiles, amphibians, fishes, insects, worms, on and on and on. Preserving and restoring the natural abundance, diversities, dynamics, distribution, habits, and behaviors of natural plant and animal populations in the communities of the ecosystem is important for them to protect. Restoring native plant and animal populations in the park when they have been extirpated. Is that how you pronounce that, John? But especially minimizing human impacts on native plants, animals, populations, communities, ecosystems, and processes that sustain them. Minimizing human impacts. Plant and animal population management principles. The individual plants and animals found in parks are genetically parts of species populations that may extend across...
Well, I hate to interrupt, are you just suggesting that the federal CFR and the regulations tend to be sort of pretty and burdensome? I think you made your point. You're gonna read that, I'm just saying, you made your point.
I would say it's, so I'm like 6 minutes in, sorry.
So sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, that's right. I was planning on it, that's why I printed it out.
Okay. Well, it's not something you wrote, you're just reading it.
No, this is out of the 200 and something pages that, you know what, the vast majority of people that are making a decision on this don't even know exist. I think it's important for people to understand that. And I'm not going to read it all. Where was I? The individual plants and animals found in parks are genetically parts of species populations that may extend across both park and non-park lands. As local populations within a group of populations naturally fluctuate in size, they become vulnerable to extirpation during periods when their numbers are low. All right? This talks about the animals that come onto the park are also animals that go onto other people's lands, and guess what? It is their directive to protect those, even if they're not on parkland. In addition to maintaining all native and plant animal species and their habitats inside parks, and the service will work with other land managers to encourage conservation of populations, habitats, and these outside the parks whenever possible. Suggest mutually beneficial harvest regulations for lands and waters outside of the parks for populations that extend across park boundaries, such as resident deer or fishes for short distance seasonal migration populations such as elk, fishes, and long-term migration populations. So in this situation is, they're going to lean on the Maine government on tag limits and practices to protect the animals that cross the borders. And
I'm sorry. The Appalachian Trail has been going through the state of Maine for 40 years at least.
Right.
And I don't think any of this stuff has been exercised by the Park Service at this time. So this is a huge threat and a false narrative, okay? It's a false narrative.
I'm reading from their policies and regulations.
They haven't exercised that. I just stood here and admitted to a federal offense of spreading my parents' ashes on top of Ball Mountain. Nobody came after me, and nobody's gonna come after me, okay? So this is a lot of fear tactics. And that's why I asked you not to put in your politics, your fear. I don't care what the X out in 200 words, and half the stuff you had to ask somebody else how to pronounce, for God's sake, okay?
Ooh.
You want somebody to come in here, you want a constituent to come in here from this county, you're gonna get a constituent from this county, not some sugar pop from liberal from out of state that's gonna be all quite loose with this stuff. Because the Appalachian Trail,
Mark, thank
the
you.
Appalachian Trail's been here for a long time, and none of this has an effect as a forester. I've harvested against the Appalachian Trail, I've never seen a problem with that. So why is this becoming an issue now?
All right, I'm gonna wrap up, last one. Chapter 3 of the policy, out of the 200 pages. Land protection. The National Park Service will use all available authorities to protect lands and resources within units of the National Park System, and the Park System will seek to acquire non-federal lands. They'll seek to acquire non-federal lands and interests in land that have been identified for acquisition as promptly as possible. For lands not in federal ownership, both those that have been identified for acquisition and other non-federally owned lands within park units' authorized boundaries, the service will cooperate with federal agencies, tribal, state, local governments, nonprofits, protect owners, provide appropriate protection. Cooperation with these entities will also be pursued, and other available land protection tools will be employed when threats to resources originate outside of the boundaries. The National Park Service is required by the 1916 Organic Act to protect and preserve unimpaired the resources and values of the National Park System while providing for public use and enjoyment. A number of park units have non-federally owned lands within their authorized boundaries. When non-federal lands exist within park boundaries, acquisition of those lands and/or other interests of those lands may be the best way to protect and manage the natural and cultural resources provided on those lands. The boundaries of most park units are not based strictly on ecological processes or other resource protection principles. The park units are increasingly subject to impacts from external sources. Examples include air pollution, water pollution, and the loss of scenic vistas, natural quiet, and wildlife habitat. To fulfill MPS protection responsibilities, strategies and actions beyond park boundaries may be employed. I'm going to skip through a few of those. One of the ones, probably the one that is the most concerning, is condemnation. And yes, I had to look this up. I don't know what condemnation means, but it means eminent domain. As a general policy, in accordance with congressional direction, condemnation is the acquisition method of last resort for the Park Service when requiring lands of interest. It is the service's goal to acquire lands of interest in lands through a cooperative negotiation process with a willing seller. Under certain circumstances, however, condemnation may be necessary.
Is that?
I am not comfortable with turning over the sovereignty of Maine land to the federal government.
Well, I think that's a debatable thing. Ms. Bat?
I just wanted to ask, Commissioner, was that was for National Park Service lands at large? So Yosemite?
Across the board, National Park Service, correct.
The big national parks.
Correct.
So just to be totally clear, there's different types of units. There's national monuments, there's national parks. This is a unit within the National Park Service. It's a scenic trail, so it's different than a national park like Yosemite or Yellowstone. So this has more specific regulations, and I think it would be, and I have looked up here the regulations for the Appalachian Trail. And the Appalachian Trail has been going through Maine for almost 100 years. So there's 100 years, almost 100 years, 80 some years of precedent for here's how the Appalachian Trail has been managed in Maine. The reality on the ground, I absolutely agree with you. I mean, federal regulations are crazy. It is good to know what's in them. As far as how that actually translates to on the ground, we have decades and decades of on the ground evidence for that. And so you need only go to the top of Bald Mountain Ridge or the other side to see how all this land really is managed.
I've been.
And then I also just
multiple
wanted to note
times.
what Mark said, which is the Maine Appalachian Trail Club has been designated as the manager of the trail, and they have a much shorter, they have a 10-page document that says,
Except for it actually says in your paperwork that they will be using, and they're actually mandated to use national park guidelines.
best practices.
Best practices.
So I think it's absolutely important to know how the land will really be managed, and the reality is that there's limited commercial harvest, there's some commercial harvest along the Appalachian Trail. The club has to okay that, but for the most part, it's, if there's any forest management, it's more for forest health. But I'm not aware of a single, management conflict, neighbor conflict, anything along the strip of land along the Appalachian Trail in Maine. It's a national scenic trail. Totally understand and can appreciate your position of, I just don't like or want more federal land. I respect that. But I do want to note that this is, there's longstanding history here of how the AT has been managed. It is still good to know what the 1,000-page documents are that are underneath it, but I think that the Trail Club and all the volunteers, there's over 100, I think the list was about 120 folks in Somerset County that are supporters of the Appalachian Trail Club, and that volunteer for the Trail Club and help manage the trail. And, they could give a lot more information about, here's how it actually looks. And again, this is a piece that's surrounded by, it's a small strip of land along the Appalachian Trail. It's surrounded by Park Service land on either side, so you can just look at that to see how it's managed.
Right.
Another thing I want to clarify, just because the question came up, is firearms are allowed to be carried. Legal firearms are allowed to be carried through Park Service land. So that's important because we're talking about this trail corridor, ATV corridor that has been better maintained and will continue to be better maintained under state ownership. There'll be more money available for that trail maintenance, and people can carry their firearms through on their ATVs to get hunting access to the north and south. So there isn't an issue with carrying firearms through. We did confirm that.
Do any other commissioners have any input?
Carol, any
Thought?
Just briefly, as I always do, I talk to my constituents when stuff like this comes up. My constituents in my towns are far away from this landed property. But when I talked to them about it, told them all about what the situation was, the answer to everyone except for one, and this is 50 or so people, said, don't let the federal government take any more of our land. I'm here for them. I oppose this. I'll adamantly oppose it forever, no matter how you try to rewrite it, because we don't want that to keep happening. We've lost enough already.
Well, I guess the first thing I would say is I disagree with you because the federal government hardly has any land in Maine. The federal government is not taking over land in Maine. This is a shibboleth that does not even exist. So you advocate closing all national parks. That seems to be the gist of your remarks. Because those regulations that you've been reciting ad infinitum pertain to Acadia. Is that at risk? Should we get rid of that? Should we get rid of all these things? No. The federal government, I'm not a great fan of it, but it is not acquiring large amounts of land in Maine. It is a relatively small landowner in Maine compared to the paper companies and private owners. It's a very low percentage, 5%, 3%, something like that.
1%.
So I had a couple things I want to say. First of all, we set policy here, and this is something we were just thrown at us 2 weeks ago. And all of a sudden, we were given, out of the blue, a veto on the acquisition of federal land, which is a very enticing sort of low-hanging fruit, and I think we all naturally want to exercise an authority that we've never had before. But I do think that we should have some sort of sober policy that underlies our decision when this comes up, because it may come up again, where we're asked to give the yes or no to a land acquisition. And I think it's unfair to the organization, Ms. Batt's organization, and the players in this particular proceeding to just sort of willy-nilly say no, where they have spent 2 years putting this together with no expectation that they'd have to run this gauntlet at the very last minute. we should create policy and we should apply it, but not to, it's sort of an ex post facto unfairness to this, which I find very concerning. I don't think we should go that way. They've done the work. We were sort of thrown a bone by Mr. Bergen apparently to veto it. And I just don't, I think we should have really good reasons for vetoing it if we're doing it, because they've done a lot of work on this thing, and it obviously has a lot of things, both pro and con, but in my view, the pros outweigh the cons. And the other things I wanted to say was that I think as commissioners, setting policy is important, making sure that our in particular, our administrator does his job. We're sort of the board of directors here. He's our CEO. And I've said it on other occasions, we should not micromanage here. And I also think that we should not just tell our trusted advisors and employees who support something like this, oh no, we know better than you. We know better than Dave Spencer. We know better than Christian Savage. We know better than Tim Curtis. We're just going to tell them what to do. I think that's bad policy on the part of commissioners. They're in support of this program. They realize that the economic benefit outweighs the negative aspects of reducing hunting on it. And we should give what they say weight and not just say, oh, my opinion is better than yours. I'm just going to shoot from the hip here. My opinion is just better than yours, Dave Spencer. I don't think it is. I would defer to them. Also, I think there are 200 hunting licenses in the state of Maine, and there's something like 1.4 million people. So pick a number, 20% of people in Maine hunt. I represent Skowhegan and Cornville. There are many hunters there. There are also a lot of other outdoor recreationists. I haven't taken a poll, but I doubt that, my guess is that there'd be a substantial number of people that would support this project, even though they may hunt, once they know all the factors involved. And I think we're not just here to offer our own personal opinions, our own hatred of the federal government or whatever it may be. We're here to represent our constituents. And this is a unique opportunity to preserve a large amount of otherwise inaccessible land on the slope of a mountain that no one ever goes to. We have a chance to preserve it. And I think we have to consider what our constituents would have to say on it. And it may be 50-50. Whatever, my guess is it's going to be pretty close. And I think as commissioners, we should try to find a balance between those groups and proceed from there. And this, just going to merits, lastly. From what I've heard, the loss of hunting in this area seems to be minimal. It's the side of a mountain. It's inaccessible to vehicles. I just drove up to St. Francis and back. I was on Otter Pond this morning. I've been all over the state of Maine in the last 3 days. There is a heck of a lot of real estate out there, and virtually all of it is open to hunting. This is a drop in the bucket. It is minor. What's on the other side of the coin, though? Well, there's a substantial chance that if this deal doesn't go through, that ATV trail and snowmobile trail goes kaput, which is a greater loss to the community than the loss of hunting.
Guarantees that that's gonna happen?
Well, part of this deal is the state gets deeded rights to the trail. It's going to be the most permanent snowmobile trail and ATV trail that I have ever heard of. I mean, I've had an ATV, snowmobile trails change all the time, and one disgruntled landowner pulls the plug. This isn't going to happen here. This is guaranteed, as I understand it. Now, are there more ATVers than hunters? I'm not sure. But Christian Savage and Dave have told us that the economic boom of that trail far outweighs, or at least outweighs, the hunting aspects. So, Weyerhaeuser is a stock, I believe it's a stock, public ownership, major multinational corporation. They have as much human kindness and sympathy as, well, I bet they don't have much. And it's the dollar that counts. And when they can't make this deal, I'm just saying, when they can't make this deal, they're going to find somebody else to buy it. And you might say, oh, that's never gonna happen. There are no multi-billionaires that wanna buy a mile of lake frontage on Lake Moxie. Why would they wanna do that? Well, I give you one name, Roxanne Quimby. Do you think she's the only one out there that wants to buy huge amounts of Maine land and reduce its accessibility to the public? No, there's a lot more than that. And when we just throw out this deal, we are opening up this land to private ownership. I admit, you may not like the federal government, but you're gonna think of it with fondness when you see no trespassing signs, no hunting signs, road closures, fences, gates and bars, and little houses all along the lake. You don't think that's gonna happen? Well, you've heard from Mr. Thrasher, it happens everywhere. So, I think on the merits, it's a close call perhaps, but clearly, the benefits of this acquisition outweigh the negatives. That's all I have to say.
So, were you aware that the Quimby land is a national monument?
Yes.
Service? Okay.
And hunting is allowed.
And they've reduced, I thought you just said they reduced taxes.
There's a hunting allowed on the east side of the East Branch in the Quimby, in the monument.
I don't think Roxanne Quimby is even still alive now, but I don't think she's gonna buy this, but I do think there's a whole lot of tech bros down there that have got billions of dollars.
Look at
And this is just a
Spencer
drop in the bucket.
Look in your county at Spencer Lake. You know about Spencer Lake, right?
Spencer Lake is privately
It's
owned.
all privately owned. Have fun.
And this is coming. I mean, Maine is the last, grab bag for a lot of people that are out there. So,
I think this is a good preservation of properties. It does a couple of things. It protects the watershed for Moxie Pond and keeps that pond, water clearer and cleaner. It also does just what you say. If the deer population collapses, it has a place to go to and recover. So there's a recovery potential for any deer populations or any other wildlife populations. That's a very important aspect of the preservation value of the property. The trail goes through, and that's an important economic boon to Somerset County and the people who live in the Forks. And you've got the letter from the Forks Area Trails Club, and there's outfitters up there that will lose money, not from hunters, but from the rentals of ATVs and snowmobiles and the sales of those same things. So I think in the long run, doing this is the thing to do today. You can place your money and take your bets, but that's all it is. It's a speculation.
As is it being federal government land.
So?
Okay. So every administration policies change, correct? Right? I mean, that's why we're talking about this today. There's a new administration that has changed some policies.
That's right.
That has actually allowed the rural citizens around this property to have a voice. Okay?
have you taken a poll of Canaan and this is in your.
I understand that, right.
Go ahead, sorry.
Thank you. Which is why I supported these folks coming here and having their say.
Yeah.
And for some people to suggest that some people are not looking at this soberly, or we're injecting politics or opinion, that we're not listening to people like Dave, is absurd, and it's wrong. We are as capable as others of actually thinking and researching and having solid thoughts based on logic and truth, even though we don't agree. You don't have to call names, you don't have to demean people when you disagree with them. one of the things with this piece of property being in government hands, Maine has 4 voices in Washington DC out of over 500. California has 54 voices to our 4. This is national public plan. Who has a stronger voice of what happens around our county, around Somerset County?
California.
I don't think we're in any danger of being run by California here.
Nobody's saying that, but he just said it.
He just said it.
The policies, they have California or whoever, almost everybody but maybe Rhode Island and Vermont, have a stronger voice in how these policies are formed than Maine. I would love to have this land preserved. I just want Maine people to have the voice in it. I don't think it's unreasonable.
No, it's not unreasonable, and I'm glad that we've had some people here who have voiced. We've gotten some email letters regarding that, who have voiced in favor of this. And they're all from people in that area. Live, work.
And I've read them all.
Can I just ask a question? Has the commission received letters of opposition?
I've seen that done.
From the public?
No,
Or
no,
residents?
I've not seen any, or actually heard of any. The first I've heard of any opposition has come from Scott.
The majority of my constituents said to come back to the table and not support this. And that's what I'm gonna do.
The majority of that would be what, 3,000 people?
More than it, I mean, I'm not talking to 3.
How many letters did you receive, John? If you're gonna go there, how many letters did you receive? Did you receive 3,000?
No, I'm just saying that we have constituents, and each one of us has 10,000 people. My guess is that there's a large number of people within each district, and in the county overall, that would support this
And it's
acquisition.
hey, good for your guess.
Okay.
I'm glad for your guess.
Well, it's just a, okay.
Mr. Chair, are you proposing a vote on the draft letter that was
I was just
presented to
going
us
to
today?
propose that we accept the draft letter and let Tim sign it on,
Would this be the appropriate place in the agenda to add a letter of my own to be voted on as a resolution?
we don't actually need a resolution. All we need is a consensus or a majority allowance for this letter to go.
Well, no, what I'm saying is the letter that I prepared. So if you're gonna propose a letter for us to vote on, I would like to also present a letter for us to vote on.
Well, this is the first we've heard of that.
Well, don't we want to just vote on, we're asked whether we have a majority that objects. That's our own narrow window. We don't have to be sending any letters to.
Is that where you're gonna be, is that where you're gonna be bringing up for a vote?
I think I was going to bring up for a vote was to accept the letter, the draft, and have that sent out. I'm not going to have a yay or nay vote because I don't know that that's necessarily necessary.
Could I ask, Mr. Steckis, is your letter a letter of no opposition?
No, my letter is in opposition.
Okay, so I think that's your choice right there. I don't think you need to vote on either letter. I think you just need to determine as a commission, and I say this in all due respect for the process.
Right.
But we have a lot of people waiting for a lot of other items on our agenda.
Yep.
And so it doesn't, from me reading the room, I think I know how it's gonna go.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I guess the thing is, we'll just ask the question, without a resolution, how many people are in favor of this project going through? And how many people are opposed? So, we have opposition. I want to thank you all for coming, who came here for this particular meeting, this portion of the meeting. And we are going on to our,
I'll leave them all out.
Pavel, if you could make sure that we're muted, or they're muted, thank you.
I think that what I'd like to do at this point, if it's okay with the commissioners, is to just go into the resolutions regarding the
Matching grant?
matching grant
That's a true.
at this time, so that we don't hold up anybody for the rest of the meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do that.
Matching grant.
Just the matching parent grant, because we have 20 of them to go through.
So that starts on number 82.
Yeah, that's resolution 2582, it's the last one, it's the bottom of the page, begins it. And then we flip it over. So we'll come back to the rest after we're done with this. So resolution 2582, to approve a matching grant application for the town of Norwalk to replace a gazebo at Basula Park, grant request for $15,000.
Second.
Discussion. Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, that's a go. On the resolution 2583 to approve a matching grant application from the town of Canaan, fire and rescue to replace air tanks, grant request is $15,000.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? That's a go. Resolution 2584 to approve a matching grant application from the Athens Community School to purchase new cross-country ski equipment. Grant request is $3,354.88.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? One
Is
opposed.
anyone who is watching the monitor, we lost the meeting?
Put them on serious mute.
We hear you.
So I just want to clarify as we continue on here, as long as you ask in opposition. So that last vote was 3-2.
Correct.
Okay. Was the first vote 3-2 on Usula?
I didn't see it go up. I didn't have
Yeah, you didn't ask
I
opposition.
don't.
So, I mean, if you have the majority of the votes, you don't even have to ask who's in opposition. because
Okay.
You've got the majority, so.
And we are with Athens. Did we vote on that? We
Yep,
did.
3-2, yeah.
3-2. Resolution 2585 to approve a matching grant application from Maine Grains in Skowhegan to replace the roof on their building. Grant request is $15,000.
I move it.
I'll second it, but I got some questions.
Yeah, I got some discussion.
Yeah, discussion.
Well, my discussion is, I don't actually, it pains me because this is a really great business. It's been a boon to our town. We've done a great job. I like everything about it. I know the people involved. It's really great. However, I have reservations about using public money to support a private business. It is my hope that Christian Savage and our economic development people can arrange for low-cost loans to support these activities. I think they're great. I want them to have a new roof, without doubt. But I just think it's a slippery slope, and it's fraught with issues when we start declaring winners and passing out public money to private businesses. So I oppose it, even though I made a motion. But I want to put that on the record.
And I look at these as something like a community benefit grant that enhances the community by bettering buildings, which in turn increases the property tax values.
But I think a better use of that, as you say that, is for outside businesses, not for existing businesses that are doing well. And I would echo the own in terms of some kind of different situation for that.
Is there somebody here from the Grays?
No.
No. So, is there any further discussion? All in favor? Oh. All opposed? Okay. 1, 4 against. Resolution 2586, to approve a matching grant application from the town of Jackman to pilot a paramedic health program.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Okay, it looks like it was everybody's all set. Resolution 2587, to approve a matching grant application from the Kennebec Valley Council of Governments to establish a regional code enforcement officer. Grant request is $15,000.
So,
Second? Did you second that? Any discussion?
Yeah, I wouldn't be in favor of this. Each individual town, especially the ones that are less than, what is it, 4,000, 4,500? Are not required, they're not mandated by the state government. And so if they so choose, if they want their code enforcement officer, they can take it out of their tax rolls and do it themselves.
Just a point of clarification, sir. I mean, every town is required to have a code officer. So this is a program designed for those towns that you just mentioned, those
Okay.
smaller than 4,000 towns, who have difficulty finding and keeping a code officer. That's the intention of the program.
So those, will those particular towns be helping to support the cost of that? Will they be
Yes.
charged an hourly wage or
Yes,
something like that?
they already budget for this, and so we would just be helping KV Cog provide that service to get it up and running, and eventually it'll be self-sustaining.
so this is a one-shot deal for us.
For us, yes.
That clarification helps, thank you.
Further discussion?
No.
All in favor? So go. Resolution 2588, to approve a matching grant application from the Heartland Historical Society for repairs to the History House. Grant request is $15,000.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? 1 opposed. Resolution 2589, to approve a matching grant application from Hospice Volunteers of Somerset County to provide volunteer training. Grant request is $15,000.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Did you raise your hand either way, John?
Oh, I'm sorry. I just gave him a flick of the wrist. It's like an auction for a cow.
And didn't want to?
Didn't want to.
Okay, resolution 2590, to approve a matching grant application from the Maine Antique Tractors Club in Norwalk to purchase a new building for club activities. Grant request is $4,000.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? 3-2.
Can we back, just maybe some discussion on this before final vote, because we don't need to talk about it.
All right. Is there
Should
some?
we just vote this down?
No,
You just
voted
wanted to
it
pass
out.
it 3-2.
We did vote in favor?
Yeah.
Oh!
3-2.
I wish to retract my earlier.
I'll alert you when you keep
Start reading that regulation today.
I was gonna say, we have such sonorous meetings.
Soporific, I think is the word you're looking for.
That's that one too. Resolution 2591, to approve a matching grant application from the town of Anson to replace carpet in the town office. Grant request, $4,207.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
I oppose this for the following reason.
Thank you.
Just tell us.
I just think this is a town tax expense, because this is not public access, this is not countywide. This is a capital improvement for a building that is pretty much solely accessed by town taxpayers. I don't think this is, I think like, for example, with the gazebo in Norwich Walk, that's a public thing that brings it, it's a countywide application. This is a very narrow focus, and I don't think it's appropriate for community benefit funds. But it's a low ask, so, but I would vote against what I just said.
Okay. The motion is on the table. All in favor? Opposed? 2, 4, 3 against, it fails. Resolution 2592 to approve a matching grant application from the Crooked Face Creamery to relocate and expand their business. Grant request is $15,000.
So moved. Second.
Discussion?
Go ahead.
Well, you think, I mean, following the previous one in relationship to business, I'm still thinking that enhancement to the county would be the development side of new businesses, which would be a better place for this money, rather than established businesses that could do something different.
I agree, Scott. This is a fantastic business. She's won national awards. Really like it. It's killing me to not be able to vote in favor of it, but for the same reason I stated earlier. I just think we have to stay away from these, and hopefully she can get a low-interest loan if she wants it from our loan people.
Well, she did get
Well
a
said.
grant from Norwich Walk on their TIF. She got some TIF money from Norwich Walk to help with this. So Norwich Walk sees that, finds it's important, and it will enhance their tax base, thus our tax base. So the money comes back one way or the other. Any further discussion? Is the person from, no? All in favor? All opposed? 1 in favor, 4 opposed. Resolution 2593 to approve a matching grant application from the Abnaki Snow Riders Club in Madison for equipment and trail repair. The grant request is $15,000.
So,
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Resolution 2594 to approve a matching grant application from the town of Bingham to refurbish the community tennis courts. Grant request is $15,000.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Any discussion, rather? All in favor? Mr. Go? Resolution 2595 to approve a matching grant application from the Margaret Chase School to replace PE equipment. Grant request is $4,000.
so,
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? 3 to 2. Resolution 2596 to approve a matching grant application from the town of St. Albans to install 2 new docks. Grant request $2,000.
so,
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Yeah?
I'm trying to figure out how this fits in with, like, is this the town of Anson or is this the town of Norwich Walk?
You done the St. Albans one?
No, I mean, we went with the Usula Park. 'cause-
Right.
But we voted against, and this is a low ask. Is there something beyond the town of St. Albans that's at stake here, or should they just fix their own docks?
Everybody that comes to that lake, whether they're from St. Albans or not.
It's just to improve access,
Yeah.
really.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, it's more the location, because it's right there in the center of town, across from the store and the little park and all that stuff.
Okay, thank you.
Ready to vote?
Yep.
All in favor? We go? Resolution 2597 to approve a matching grant application from the Skowhegan Madison Elks Club to install LED lights for outdoor club activities. Grant request is $2,550.
so,
Second.
Discussion?
okay, this is to enhance, when they have, benefits up there, they have a lot of benefits at the Elks for bereaved families and for sporting events and whatever, and this will allow, we just cleaned the whole yard out, so this will allow them to use the outside.
So this is in the nature of sort of a quasi-public facility that we're enhancing for public involvement.
Well, they do a lot, they have Christmas with the kids and
And they're a nonprofit organization.
Okay, great. Let's vote.
All in favor? We go. Oh, next page. Resolution 2598 to approve a matching grant application from the Madison Public Library to install a new ADA access ramp. Grant request $15,000.
so,
Second, discussion?
Just a quick question. Have they gone through ADA to try to get grants for this?
Yes, back when I was town manager, we've been working on this for 10 years, so.
So this is a safety.
No wonder why you get done there.
Any further discussion? All in favor? To go. Resolution 2599 to approve a matching grant application from the Snow Devils Snowmobile Club in St. Albans to add on to its storage shed. Grant request is $7,285. Discussion? Didn't they just get a grant?
So they received a grant 2 cycles ago.
Okay.
To build this shed, and you provided some funds for that, and now they're trying to, again, add to it.
And they matched their grant?
They did, right, so they put in their portion, as they would on this one.
2 cycles ago is 1 year ago?
Correct.
Because it's biannual, right?
So, all in favor? Opposed? One opposed. Resolution 25-100 to approve a matching grant application from the Mercer Historical Society to repair and repaint interior walls at their history house. Grant request is $3,000.
So moved.
Second. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? 4-1. Resolution 25-101 to approve a matching grant application from the Forks Chamber of Commerce to create a tourism promotion. Grant request is $7,678.
So moved. Second.
Discussion?
Yeah, what is this?
Tim, did you set in on this? Do you know, you have any information on that, on this one?
On this one from the Forks?
The Forks Chamber
of Commerce?
Yeah.
So basically, I don't see her on the Zoom here. So if you know anything about the Forks Chamber of Commerce, it is a small outfit that has gone through many iterations over the years, and it's kind of not been active. And so the new director is bringing a little bit more life into it, and she would like to see videos and photos and websites and social media and that sort of thing to draw attention to the tourism opportunities in that area. So, not unlike what the county has approved before for other entities such as the L.C. Bates Museum and that sort of thing.
Do you remember if this went through the committee unanimous, or was there?
It scored better than average in the committee scoring because of the reach of it.
Okay.
All in favor? To go. Resolution 25-102 to approve the hire, we're done with the grant application. So, we'll go back. Let's go back to the beginning. We're going to go back to what,
this is your opportunity to leave.
Thank you.
Tim, I just, maybe it's, on the grant application, when we started, we had sort of a committee kind of approved this, we didn't do the scoring, we had a more active committee involvement with the hope that we'd get a lot of the heavy lifting done and then kind of run it in front of the board here, not to rubber stamp, but to kind of go with the program. Not to unreasonably withheld consent. So we kind of changed it this time. We kind of had the full, we've made this the reviewing committee, and I guess it's worked. Is everyone happy the way we're doing it now? Or do you want to go back the old way, or is this just, I'm just...
I still value the input of people outside of the board, and if we do that electronically, basically by email comments or a score sheet, because I was able to look at a couple of the score sheets and kind of say, okay, this is, because there's about a third everybody was in no problems with, a third they're like, I question that, and a third they're kind of middle of the road, which is very equal to what you just did here. I have, no problem with that. The one thing I would add, and I'm going to give you an update in a couple of weeks, but one thing I would add is maybe a stronger caveat on for-profit businesses. So in 4 rounds, you've only approved 1 out of probably about a half a dozen for-profit applications. And that was one that had a greater impact throughout the county. So, we can talk about that at a later meeting, how to kind of couch that.
So we're back on to workshop number 3, policy review, internet, email, and computer use.
If it pleases the commission, I'd like to read all 16 pages word by word.
Well, let's start, go read it.
So, to me, this is kind of a first reading for you.
I can get this kind of abusive.
Just consider it family.
Again, reading the room. So, this is what I consider kind of the first read as our ongoing policy updates. This internet and computer use policy was developed 10 years ago. A lot's changed in 10 years. And so Pavel and his team did a great job going through it. They've made recommended new parts and changes in red, if you've had a chance to look at it. And then there's just an item near the end of it in regards to use of social media, chat, instant messaging, and web-based email services. 10 years ago, we said that those are prohibited for use and they're blocked. But the reality is almost all of our departments use some form of that, especially when you get into investigations in the DA's office and detective work. They're almost all using it. So one thing you might want to consider is just maybe modifying that a little bit to be, it's still going to be monitored. The use of those things is still monitored by our IT department, but whether they need to be totally prohibited or not. So what I'd like to recommend is if there's any questions at this time, I'll be glad to try to field them or Pavel. But I can bring this up as a resolution to kind of move these changes forward at the next meeting.
So just so I fully understand, so our policy says, do we equip our employees with phones? I ask them.
We do.
Okay. So you have a county phone, you're only allowed to use that for county business, right?
Now, that's a different policy. So this is computer use, emails, internet. Coming soon is a revision of our cell phone policy.
Okay, so it's not a cell phone, it's a laptop. You're not allowed to use your laptop to send your spouse.
In policy, correct.
Okay. And as far as chats, communicating government business via chat, that's not prohibited, is it?
It is blocked according to this policy as it was written 10 years ago.
It just seems to me you've got a very simple policy, which is you can use your government communication facilities for government business, period, and not for any other reason.
And again, we can recraft that section.
We don't need 16 pages to do that.
Oh, we do. You're not the only attorney in the room. We need all this.
Well, it's like a rental car contract. No one expects you ever to read. If you do, they'll shoot you while you're waiting alone.
But there are certain aspects that have come to the forefront, especially in regards to our insurance, such as dual authentication and that sort of thing. So, and AI technology, everybody's telling me, even if you have a paragraph, and even if ChatGPT writes it for you, you need to have an AI policy in your policy book.
Okay.
So,
maybe we'll get AI to write the policy.
Yeah.
but if it pleases the board, I can bring you this back at the next meeting. So
Yeah. All right, so we're good with number 3. Public hearings, public comment, to allow members of the public to comment and reserve time to speak on upcoming agenda items. I think we've all set there. New agenda items, commissioners only. Seeing none. Administrator report.
So I alluded to this earlier, I'm working on some updates to past matching grants, so going back 2 years to give you updates on things that the county has funded, where they're at, and that should be coming up in a future meeting. I just want to speak to the upcoming resolutions, number 80 and 81. So number 80 is to approve a trial 3-week meeting schedule. We did get some feedback from folks when I reached out to department heads. If we do go forward with a change in the meeting schedule, the consensus of the finance office and the comm center and the UT and everybody else, the consensus was keep the warrant schedule the same. So that kind of throws it a little wonky if you were to do that, because the warrant schedule is not going to match up with the 3-week schedule. And that would require commissioners to come in and sign. So that's just something to keep in the back of your mind. If you did stretch it out for a whole year, it's about a 5-meeting difference. So there's 5 more meetings as opposed to every other Wednesday, as opposed to the meetings if you did them every 3 weeks. And the other thing I was going to mention on number 81, when you get there, is the question is to approve changes to the county disposal of property policy. This has been discussed at numerous workshops in regards to the sheriff's position and discretion on firearms. So I asked, because there was really not a consensus of the group, I asked by email for suggestions to change this policy, what the commissioners were looking for. I received only one suggestion, and that was from Commissioner Alsop, so that's what's before you. So the resolution is to change it from what exists to what Commissioner Alsop recommended, and I just hope that you have reviewed that. So those are the only things I needed to report. I will say, Commissioner Cezak, that after Patrick's financial report, Mike Smith has the update on FEMA funding that you had requested at the last meeting.
Are you all set with your
I am.
report? Okay. Gotcha.
I give my time to Mike.
That doesn't mean you have twice as much.
No, status quo, everything's still going fine. We're, a month and a half away from the year-end close. Looks like the general fund is gonna come in about $900,000 favorable to budget. And the jail should come in at a break even, so we didn't have to utilize any undesignated fund balance to offset any losses. And the UT is trending well. I assume the UT to be probably 150,000 favorable this year. So, no issues so far.
Stable, if not better?
Better, stable.
Good.
I like to hear.
Mike?
So, very quickly, as far as funding goes, as far as reimbursements go, things have started to improve. I think currently we have about $40,000, I believe, outstanding, which is a lot better than the $170,000 we had the last time I was talking to you. And we've been told that they're basically caught up on reimbursements and they're in the cycle now to be paid. So I'm hoping to see those, at least one of those two, within the next week or so, which would be about $30,000 out of that $40,000. So I wanted to quickly touch base with you. We've been working some projects. I mean, nobody knows what's going to happen to FEMA. The commission that was appointed to take a look at and review FEMA and come up with a recommendation had their first meeting recently. And the gist of the meeting was, throughout it several times, it was stated that all emergencies start and end at the local level. We've heard numbers from the state director talking about quadrupling our thresholds when it comes to a disaster declaration. I think what we've seen in the kind of the lack of response to what's happened in Kentucky over the last few weeks, to not have real high expectations of what we would see if we were going to have, if we had a disaster. I think quadrupling our thresholds will probably greatly eliminate the amount of funds you'll see, coming back into the state of Maine as far as disaster declarations go. So I asked the state to give me a printout of just the last 3 declarations, which would have been December 22, would have been May Day 23, it's the December 23 score, as to what it looked like across the county as far as the municipality goes. The top sheet is actually the federal share for each one of those declarations. Your second sheet is the state share, and the third sheet is just a total by municipality, which I think is probably the biggest teller. If you take a look, and I've highlighted 4 towns in particular, where you're looking at well over $1 million between the federal reimbursement and the state reimbursement back to those municipalities. And we're not talking, yes, one of them, Skowhegan, which is our largest town, but we're also talking Moscow, which has 480-something residents, and and over $1 million would probably cripple, that town as far as not having reimbursements. So I just kind of wanted you to take a look at that. Sarah's been working really hard with trying to bring in municipalities to start talking about resiliency, start talking about understanding that whole issue of emergency start and end at the local level. That, you know, the municipalities need to understand, and I would, you know, both of us would welcome your support if you happen to talk to any of your municipalities, that there's a great possibility that we won't be seeing somebody coming in on a white horse, you know, to save us if we have another disaster. And I'm not going to sit here and debate whether we should or we shouldn't. I'm just saying I think it's a reality that we may not.
Well, those that loathe the federal government should rejoice in this news.
Like I said, I'm not going there. It's just that as I look at the federal budget right now, the budget proposals for state homeland security funds are down about 17% is being proposed. Normally by now, we've filled out our application, we've sent it in, it's, you know, we haven't even heard that the notice of funding has dropped in, because it's still sitting in the budget. It does look like that there'll be potentially about a 17% decrease in EMPG funding, which is that's what offsets our portion of the budget that we count as revenue. So what's in there is $78,000. I think we could probably safely say is not going to be the number that will probably be reimbursed. And once again, who knows how that 17% will be broken up over which state takes the hits and who doesn't take the hit. So I would welcome you to, you know, if you talk to any of your constituents in the municipalities, is to encourage them. I know Sarah's been trying very hard to get participation. It goes to the town offices, it goes to the EMA directors, it goes to the fire chiefs, it goes out to multiple people within the town. We just had a presentation last week on sheltering at the local level, and Bill Gwynn came from MEMA, did a presentation. We had 12, I believe, attend, 3 of those being school districts, which is good. So they kind of, you know, at least come in and take a look at what the potentials are. Just cots have been distributed to multiple locations around the county, and cots and blankets, excuse me, just to kind of pre-position. So if we have a disaster, we're not running, or people aren't running to us to try to get that done. So I just think it's, if people would at least start to have the conversation. I know that there's a town or two who have actually, and Richard's on the call, who have actually, you know, done a great job of expanding their emergency management response capabilities and taking a look at what they needed for some potential emergency funding at the local level. Also, if you take a look at this, Somerset County, you know, at $150,000, while a small amount of money over the course of, oh, actually it's more than that, I'm on the wrong page, $178,000. While a small amount of money was still money that came back in for the UTs for work, you know, for damage that had been done. So I think even at the commissioner level, we need to understand that may not happen again. So, or potentially could not happen, at least, you know, for the time being. So, any questions? If I could tell you what I thought was going to happen to FEMA, it would be, my crystal ball's not working today, so I don't know for sure, but.
Is there a list of recipients of this somewhere?
That's done by town. So this right here is public assistance. So this is town damages.
Okay.
So in addition to this $7.6 million, we also had $1.2 million in individual assistance. Okay, which went out to individuals who suffered damages and losses and stuff during that December 23 storm. That would have only done that one storm, and we got the individual assistance on. So you're looking at, you know, closing in on $9 million over the course of 3 disasters in 12 months.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And our district attorney is here.
Just for the report, the office report. So I just wanted to let everyone know that today we had a sentencing of Andrew Blaze, and he pled guilty to all 6 counts, including Class A aggravated trafficking in scheduled drugs causing the death of a person. And it's just a horrible case, and the only reason we could bring the case because it's not a charge that is often able to be brought, because you have to prove that the drugs that the person ingested were sold by the person who's been charged. We couldn't do it if it wasn't for the Somerset Sheriff's Office. I mean, their investigation was incredible. Detective David Cole went above and beyond. He got DNA on the bag of fentanyl that killed the victim in this case, and my hat's off to the Sheriff's Office. Phenomenal work that enabled us to bring the case, and he was sentenced to 8 years, followed by a consecutive 4 years of federal time, followed by 3 years of probation. And what that will do is it will prevent him from having an early release, which is become more and more important in sentencing. And it also is what the family wanted, life imprisonment, but the family did approve this offer before the offer was made in order to avoid the pain of a trial. It's already just incredibly painful. So I just want people to understand just the impact that drug trafficking is having on our community. It's not just, sometimes I think people think, well, it's a victimless crime. I've heard that, and that always really bothers me, because it's not a victimless crime. We have people dying, and we have really beloved members of our community dying. So.
Just a
Yeah.
quick question,
Yes,
in relationship to the 4 consecutive, no, there's 8 and then 4 consecutive sentences?
No, 4 years.
4 years.
So 8 years in state prison,
Yeah.
followed by 4 years in federal prison, followed by 3 years of probation.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah. Thanks.
Happy to. So I just thought I'd bring that case to your attention. That's a big case for Somerset County. The other news from the DA's office is we do have a law student intern, which is a huge, huge help to the attorneys. So we're really grateful that we can have a law student. She's quickly gotten up to speed, helping us with screening, helping us with doing first drafts of law court appeals. And this is a program that all of you have made possible. So my thanks to you, and just wanted to let you know that we do have a Maine Law student intern with us right now, and she'll be starting her 3rd year at Maine Law in September. So she's just with us for the summer.
Great, thank you.
Right, law student.
That's what I thought, lost the student. If she's here, she must be lost. Sheriff.
It's just extremely busy, and the kudos does go to the detective division and the DA's office for aggressively going after these types of cases. They do have a really impact on our community, so it was a great collaboration between our 2 offices to move this forward.
Beautiful. Joel?
In the month of May, so I noticed that Skowhegan PD put on their Facebook, I think they had 3 or 4 different busts that they got their hands on enough fentanyl in those busts to kill nearly 60,000 people. Skowhegan residents 7 times over. Are you must be working actively with the local PDs as well to do some of that stuff, or?
Yeah, we're always collaborating with other agencies to further these investigations, because these investigations aren't to one community. They have a lot of tentacles of where it came from. They pass through a lot of communities, and usually drug dealers don't just stop at one community line. They go to the next, they go to other communities. So that collaboration is very important towards our success.
And maybe directed at either or both of you. Of course, you're aware, I mean, I'm aware of the crime and the drug dealing and all the things that are a part of that, because you've been in my neighborhood multiple times because of it. But do you think the general population throughout Somerset County is really seeing it and understanding how much of a problem it is?
Well, it's really, and I think the judge alluded to it earlier today, it's really three-pronged. Really, it's a three-legged stool. One is enforcement, one is treatment, but as strong as the other two is education. And I mean, we have a lot of educational out there. I don't know if they fully comprehend the gravity of the situation. I'm afraid we're going to lose a generation because of, as the judge put it, and I agree, this scourge that's falling upon us.
To follow up on that question, you guys do a great job, I feel, posting those arrests publicly. Can that be taken a step further and use that as a piece of a way to educate beyond?
Well, so we make the press releases, not only to inform, but also to educate.
Right.
And I think that when, because we are very active doing that, hopefully people can connect the dots that it is a problem in our communities.
But that's good for those that are on social media, but there's an abundance of people aren't. How do we make that public information to them so they're better informed of this, because we obviously don't have the media to help us out, so.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, I mean, we at the jail have option programs and outreach programs and referral programs. So we're reaching a large community. Are we going to reach everyone? Probably not. But that is a strong piece of all of this puzzle is the educational part. And the problem is that fentanyl is so addictive that even you really need help to get off.
And I don't think people understand it can come in any form. Like, I think, like, you know, people don't understand it could be a pill, it could be, I mean, they think it has to be a needle, but some addictions start by using pills, and then they progress to needles. I do think the SRO program in the schools makes a big difference. Yeah.
Questions, anything further?
We're busy.
You're busy.
As I told the budget committee, and I told you all, I could put 6 more detectives to work and keep them going full time.
Speaking of more, did we get any more vehicles?
Supposedly, this fall, we're supposed to get 6 vehicles.
This fall?
I'll do the old supposed. We'll see.
Is it better now?
Yeah, it is getting a little better. We're still under a little bit of stress because of the high mileage. I've been very fortunate with the county administrator working through that. And I think once we receive the vehicles this fall, it will relieve a lot of stress.
Is there one or two particular things those 6 extra deputies would be doing if you had them?
To be painfully candid, we have so much drug information, and as a result of drugs, there are other crimes that are perpetrated to support the drug habit. We actually have to, we meet and prioritize on how we're going to operate. So I'm telling you that, and I'm not expecting the county to give me 6 more detectives. I'm just telling you that there is a lot of work to be done.
Should we use the situation where the detective that you deputize, he's able to help with some of this because he's involved with some of these busts, or is it a possibility to grow that in terms of other agencies to assist? I mean,
yeah, so there's always conversation going on about how we can do it better, more effectively. The issue is that every community has these issues, and so, I mean, we're working through them, and we're prioritizing our calls when it comes to drug activity.
Just want to see what we can do to get you the help you need, because it's a big problem. Kudos to Somerset County Sheriff's Office, because you guys are doing a bang-up job.
Well, it's a team effort. It's a collaboration between the DA's office, and we're very fortunate to have Megan to work through these issues, and we have some hard-working detectives.
I will say he's been giving us so much work in phenomenal cases that I am looking at moving, and I wanted to talk with Tim about this first. I'm looking at moving an attorney from Kennebec to Somerset, so that Somerset has 4 attorneys once our intern leaves, because I don't know how they're gonna do it. There's just, the cases need time, and it takes a lot of work to be ready to go to trial, to be ready to present all the information, and I want the attorneys to be able to bring the cases to trial. They're very, very active here. They're in trial every other month, and so my observation is that they need the help more than Kennebec, so that's what I'm looking to do. But I wanted to talk with Tim about that, to see how that's going to, impact the budget. We do have an extra room, so we can use that room, and that's something I'm looking at right now, making that change, because I think Somerset needs the help.
Would returning the mission of the state police back to where it was when we were working cooperatively, would that help relieve a little bit of that, you think? Or?
So we've never not stopped working with the state police. They've redefined their mission. I think the legislature in this session is trying to give them a better head count. It's unwritten right now on what that looks like moving forward.
Okay, so they are participating in some of the things that you're doing still. You may not be able to say. Okay.
We're not fighting with the state police.
But yeah, I'm not suggesting that. It's just, I do remember, because of the mission change, they were doing less work within.
Well, they're concentrating on the interstate.
Yes, right.
And then we've had these conversations. That's more calls for service to us, and we all here have been working through that.
Right.
I've seen the change in the cases. All the big cases come from the sheriff's office. And it used to be that we also got, once in a while, we don't have a big case from the state police, but it's mostly interstate.
Yeah, so because of the mission change, we're picking up more of the work. Okay.
There are legislative components, but we're not spending our money wisely. I just feel that big.
Like it.
She's very aware that Jake Hall is really small. You still on for 3 weeks?
Still
on every 3 weeks?
Well, not if we're, I don't understand why we can't pay them every 3 weeks. Usually we pay them every 3 days for most.
Are we all set? Does Pavel, do you have any report for us?
I defer to.
We continue working on the
You like 3 weeks?
project for the jail. Major server upgrades project is gonna happen within like next 2 weeks. We're working on Windows 10 to Windows 11 upgrades, and we're getting ready for Office 365 implementation. That's probably gonna happen in August. That's a few major projects going on.
Yeah. Any questions, comments? Thank you.
Thank you.
David?
Yes. UT business is pretty normal right now. We do have a TIF application that I've distributed out to the board members, and I've gotten a lot of email responses in favor of it. So I wanted to ask Joel and Seth if they wanted to have a sit-down meeting with the rest of the board. The ask is kind of open-ended. They asked the full price for a groomer, and they're not expecting the full amount because it's over $300,000. But the question is, how much would we want to contribute towards that? So I didn't know if you wanted to have a meeting and have Jen Mills come down to Pittsburgh Farm, or just work everything out through emails or phone.
Do you think it would be more productive to sit down and kind of knock the thing back and forth with, I mean, I almost see it being, well, you know, I think 200,000 and then decide 150, you know, and then.
Yes.
I mean, in person would be better, you think?
I think it'd be better if we could reach the amount that we could all agree on.
Yeah. I'm up for it.
When I first got that application, I looked at the ask and I'm going like, I'm not gonna send this out today. And I gotta let this ruminate a little bit and then call Jen and speak with her.
Right.
You know, and yeah, there are some facts that goes into what she's done to generate money, and then we can kind of contribute in amount.
Well, like, and like I had asked, okay, you know, what is our high bar, what have we done in the past? But of course, looking at that and then factoring in inflation and all these other things, you know, where are we at?
Yeah, we haven't received many applications, so we do have money in the account.
Right.
You know, so we can go higher than we have if that's what the board decides.
Yeah.
And then after the board, then we bring it to you as commissioners, and then you can determine them. But first, the board has to do their work, and you two are the head of the board, so.
Once you set it up.
Yeah.
Can you?
You gonna do us lunch like at Lily Bay or something like that, or?
Say if the food truck shows up again.
Oh, there we go.
We had one, we knew, but.
Yeah. You're driving this time.
If you guys can just send me whatever dates are convenient for you, I'll arrange with the rest of the board. You know, we'll do a meeting here, I assume is the easiest.
I think so, I mean, all the way from Pittsburgh Farm, yeah?
Yeah, Jen will come down.
Okay.
Yeah, she'll come down. Rather than us drive up there.
We might not make it.
If you were buying lunch, I mean, you know, you never know.
Well, I admit, they have great food at Pittsburgh Farm.
Yeah,
They have
oh,
great food
yes,
there.
yes, it's been a while since I've been there, but yes, they do.
But I figured for the board members here, it's easier location.
I like it.
Otherwise than that, UT's good.
Well, good, our roads survived mud season, and
Yeah, we have, just to let you know, we have another RFP coming in for the next meeting that's going to be opened and awarded. And that was from last fall. We discussed paving beside the Lexington Cemetery. And that was approved, but we didn't take the quote that was given out by Fine Line Paving. We went out for an RFP. So whatever bids we get will be opened at the next meeting.
very good.
We changed a few things on it, made it a little bit thicker, 3 inches. And I think we added a little bit to the distance, so. But I sent it specifically to Fine Line Paving and a couple of the other companies, and then we posted on our website.
Okay. Any other questions or comments for Dave? Thank you. No unfinished business? Well, we're back to new business.
You wanna hear from Ryan's office?
I already did.
We did.
Well, you must
Where was
have
you?
seen it.
Yeah.
Just repeat it.
You were sorting that out, so we had to kick you.
Oh, good, so we're
Oh,
better than,
so they could have been
there's somebody with a hand up. It looks like Richard.
No, I don't think, that's just the mouse that's on the
His mouse
screen
is-
there.
Okay.
I think Richard's is long gone.
They're still on, I see the Zoom is up, but
Yeah.
he hasn't unmuted, so I guess we're good. Resolution 2580 to approve the trial 3-week meeting schedule to begin July 2nd, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
I'm against this proposal because I think it actually reflects poorly on the commissioners for not being keeping in tune with what's going on in the county. This seems to be a lack, disinterest coming up. It will also make our meetings longer. So we might start at 2 if you want to get out at 5, or if you don't mind getting out at 6. There's that other aspect to it. So those are those things.
I don't want to die on the hills, I mean, if we can't pay our bills, if we have to have a different bill paying schedule, then I don't even want to bother doing this. This is ridiculous. And I don't know why our vendors can't wait for 3 weeks. Typically people, I get a bill that says you have 30 days to pay. I always wait until the last possible day. Just kidding. But I don't think the public is disturbed by us meeting every 3 weeks. I disagree with Robert, but it's not a big deal for me. I don't want to come in. I get so confused on which week to come in at Sunday mornings and which week doesn't mean I can do it.
That's a sign.
Yeah. It's not the only sign we're seeing, but it is a sign. So, from my point of view, so one of the things that a lot of municipalities are doing this. They're changing their hours. I know, like in Canaan, they just went to 4 10-hour days, and with historically now over the last, holy cow, what's it been, 3 years now or something? As commissioners, we have decided we're not going to increase pay. We're trying to conserve dollars, and as long as we can do our work and reduce, the amount of time, I guess, I don't see where it's any sort of problem.
What, the existing schedule?
No, going to the 3 week.
Okay.
And half the time we're on a 3 week anyway.
Yeah, and also we save our employees spending an afternoon here waiting for their turn to speak.
And there is that too, Rick. Right.
So,
Efficiencies.
What would you do on bill paying?
Well, I mean, I would really leave it up to Tracy and Patrick. Although I did hear from the department heads that say, like Dave said, that, you have, as a municipality, you have to get the vendor onto your schedule. And so, because most people do pay their bills as soon as they receive them, if they're a business or an individual, and people have to get used to. I used to get texts and calls from Summit Natural Gas because my phone number was on the application for the library and the highway department in Madison, and they're like, we're going to disconnect you because you haven't paid your bill. So the waste management, oil, electric, CMP, all these things, they don't care. As long as, when that date passes, you're getting late charge, you're getting additional fees added to it, and then it's incumbent on Dave or Tracy or Patrick to pick up the phone and call and say, hey, it's coming, it just was on this 3 week cycle, and so can you please remove the fees? So that does happen.
I suggest that we provide a list to the commissioners of a list of vendors that we feel that we cannot stretch out the payments, and the commissioners give approval for the administrator to sign off on those payments to release them. And then all the other payments will follow the 3 week plan. Like you said, it's going to be like your credit card. We need to do that. We need to do power. We're going to pay power no matter if you sign off on it or not, oil, all those things. So let us provide a list of the different vendors that we feel that need to be on this at least 2 week plan, and then Tim could sign off on those warrants.
And there also is a parliamentary thing in regards to this, that if, in those off weeks, if 3 people are coming in and signing a warrant, that warrant hasn't been approved by a commissioners meeting at a public meeting yet. So the way you do it now, you're approving this warrant, and then you sign it. If you change that, you're signing, and then it goes to the next meeting for approval. So it is parliamentary, a little bit out of order. It's not the end of the world, but, so. Those are things just to consider.
Well, I don't want to create more work for people by doing this.
I guess my thought is that I was looking at this every 2 weeks as something that, I'm going to be able to try, but it's going to create a situation where it's going to make it difficult to keep things consistent, and we don't need, if I'm correct, we don't need people, finding out that we're not making payments on time or whatever the case may be. So for me, I think, like with John, I had the thought about the 3 week, but to remain consistent, I think it's easier to probably stay where we are.
That's about it.
Ready to vote? All in favor of the 3 weeks? All opposed? So we'll stay on our,
That's right. Right, we can- that's-
You're so convincing.
Now, can we go on the 3 week?
Yeah, we'll show up with
John will show up, and he won't be here, but.
We can revisit this at the end of the year when we have to publish our schedule.
That's right, there you go. Come back in January.
Yeah, we can think about it some more.
The resolution 2581 to approve changes to the county disposal of property policy pursuant to the disposal of firearms by the Somerset Sheriff's Office.
Mr. Chair, I would move to table until next meeting where we'll have a little bit more time to actually review and present more options. As busy as it's been, as you know, I've received more phone calls from you in the last week than I have in the last 3 years. So I know you've been as busy as I have with the commissioner stuff, so.
Yeah. Second for table? All in favor of tabling? Good. It's for next week, next 2 weeks. Or is it 3 weeks? I forget.
It'll be 2 weeks.
Yes.
I'd hate to have a meeting when we don't get a chance to get deep into the weeds on this particular policy again. Keep kicking that football right down the road.
Well,
Gotta get to next year before we finally decide.
we are down to resolution 25102 to approve the hiring of Jordan Shaw as legal secretary in Somerset County District Attorney's Office.
Second.
Discussion.
I could tell you something about her.
Yeah, please do.
I stole it from the court.
We totally trust you, John.
If you like her, she's gotta be good.
So we're very excited.
Okay, so,
Yeah, I'm voting yay.
yeah, okay, all in favor, yes. I thought you had something to say, Joel, so.
No, never.
Capital Reserve expenditures, resolution 25103 to approve the spending of $52,658.66 from account G12 to 4043-13 for the Office 365 migration project.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Wait a minute.
Have discussion?
I'm just gonna ask what this project needs that kind of money for.
That's just the launching of the project.
Just-
Cost more than that.
Okay.
When that case.
They didn't take long.
Yeah, this is just the initial startup of the project. I think the project is scheduled, what, for about 100,000?
Yeah.
So if you recall from the budget discussions, we've been kicking the can of Office 365 down the road to the point where it's no longer sustainable. So we need to move over to this subscription.
Yep.
So, all in favor?
I say yay.
Yay. Unorganized Territory, Resolution 25104 to authorize spending $500 from TIF to reimburse the Arnold Expedition Historical Society to fund a study of repairs needed to the trail in Caring Place Township.
So move.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? So go. Resolution 25105 to award the bid for the slip line culverts project in the unorganized territory. And that again was for the amount of
$370,000.
$370,000. And
That's money in the
Where would that money come from?
UT budget.
Yeah, it's capital account.
We knew this was
Probably
coming.
come out of capital roads.
When do we have to do it again?
We are.
Let's put it under discussion first before we have a motion.
Is there a motion yet?
So move. Oh, second.
Okay, now, please.
This is split between two areas. One is 8 culverts that will be step-lined that are under the Long Falls Dam Road. We need to get the culverts fixed, and then we're gonna pave it. We pave it every 10, 15 years, and we're not paving this year. We're gonna do the culverts this year, and then we're paving that section of Long Falls Dam Road next year. And 3 culverts are 8-foot culverts, and stream runs through the Last Roundup Road and the Oliver Road in Lexington. And they are, 2 of them are side by side, and they're considered a bridge by the state. And as Tim remembers, we get reports on the county bridges telling us everything that's wrong with them and everything we should fix. This will help cure one of the ones they keep complaining to us about. So we'll get these up, and we're going to actually make these culverts extend further out so we can widen the road on top of them and put in some barriers or some, something to keep people from falling off. Yeah, they complain about that. So we can take some money out of capital bridges if we choose to, but we do have enough money under capital roads to take care of this whole project.
Any questions or concerns? All in favor? Let's go. And warrants, resolution 25-106 to approve the treasurer's warrant for general fund, Somerset County Jail, and unorganized territory for a total of $460,078.15.
So moved. Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Very good. Miscellaneous discussion items, the commissioners only. Set? All good?
Yeah.
What's on your mind?
All right, we're all set. Recess to execute documents.
Everything is.
No.
This is for the Somerset project.
Who took?
I just need one thing.
Give one to the press.
I saw it.
Oh, you did get it, okay.
Oh, I didn't get it, so.
I just wanted to.
That's all I need there.
Yeah, I didn't, I was in court all morning upstairs.
Okay, you gonna stick around for a little while?
Yeah, I have. There's a second too.
Do you have one?
I don't know, I don't know we're gonna get the questions.
Yeah, I got it.
Please, yes, board.
And I'll answer, like, as you look at, like, I just want to.
Yeah, so I didn't see the.
Just, okay, it's just.
I don't know if it's on the.
It's the beginning of the session, it's just our rate.
You heard it tomorrow.
What's that?
Just Joel needs to do this. This is for Joel needs to sign.
90 degrees.
Yeah.
I know there's more than one. Supposed to be good.
No, but Joel that didn't sign.
I still got that whole front section on the wall. I pushed maybe a third of it last night.
I pushed it.
And I mowed, kind of mowing water.
Yes, sir.
I tell you.
Yes, I have. Yeah, it's a couple times.
Over the years, it really ripped us up.
Yeah, yeah, they've done a very good job with that. I've marched in McQuay a couple times. When I first ran.
It's gonna be okay budgetary wise.
And you're-
How
How you doing?